All right, let's pull back the curtain on a piece of TV history that's, well, it's pretty much vanished. We're going to dive into the incredible story of a show that tried to completely change the game for daytime TV. And you know what? For a little while, it actually worked. So, when you think about TV in the 1950s, especially daytime TV, what do you picture? I'm guessing it's those endless soap operas, right? Same people, same problems, day in and day out. But what if I told you there was this one show that just threw all those rules out the window? Okay, so this show was called Modern Romances. It was on NBC from 1954 to 1958. And the driving force behind it was this incredibly elegant and talented actress, Martha Scott. She wasn't just some host they hired. She was the creative soul of the whole thing. And Martha Scott, she laid it all out there. She said her mission was to bring nighttime quality to the daytime audience. Think about that. This wasn't just going to be another soap opera. No, the idea was to elevate the entire experience, to give people watching in the middle of the afternoon the same kind of quality you'd expect from a big primetime drama. And the way they did it, it was completely different from anything else on TV. You know how regular soaps had stories that went on forever with the same cast? Yeah, Modern Romances was the exact opposite. It was a true anthology series. So get this. Every single Monday, you got a brand new story with a brand new cast. And by Friday, that story was done. It had a beginning, a middle, and a real ending. Each week was like watching a little mini-movie. It was a complete story that didn't drag on forever. For daytime TV back then, that was absolutely revolutionary. So what was the secret sauce here? What made these stories so different and so good? Well, it all boiled down to this one core idea. This one philosophy that shaped every single script. They actually had a name for it: emotional justice. Now, the stories came from the Modern Romances magazine, but Martha Scott, who was also the story editor, made sure every single one followed this rule. And the rule was this: characters could be flawed, they could face huge problems, but the solution had to come from their own personal growth. It couldn't just be some random tragedy or a convenient car crash that solves everything for them. No, they had to earn their resolution. And you know what? The critics totally noticed. This was not your average tearjerker. One critic, Faye Emerson, pointed out that the show avoided being overly sentimental, that the maudlin is kept to a minimum. It had real dignity. A daytime drama getting praised for being subtle? Imagine that. Okay, but a brand new cast every single week? You'd think that'd be a casting director's worst nightmare, right? But for Modern Romances, this crazy format actually became its secret weapon. It turned the show into this absolute magnet for amazing actors. See, the show was filmed live in New York City. And here's the kicker: it was only a one-week commitment. So it was the perfect side hustle for Broadway actors. We're talking about the best of the best, performers who would never, ever sign a long-term contract for a regular soap. But a 5-day gig to make some money between plays? Absolutely. It was a no-brainer for them. And the talent they got? It was unbelievable. You had Leslie Nielsen, yeah, that Leslie Nielsen, long before his comedy days, playing serious dramatic roles. You had Lee Remick, who'd go on to be an Oscar nominee, Ross Martin from The Wild Wild West, Robert Mandan from Soap. The list just goes on and on. And it wasn't just the actors. The show's prestige was so high that when Martha Scott had to leave for another Broadway show, they got some seriously high-profile guest hosts. We're talking Margaret Truman, you know, President Harry S. Truman's daughter. The president's daughter hosting a daytime drama. But okay, for all its fancy ideals and incredible actors, let's not forget this was still live TV in the 1950s. And that meant chaos. It was this constant high-wire act, trying to balance artistic vision with the cold, hard realities of commerce. For one thing, the network, NBC, just couldn't seem to make up its mind. They kept bouncing the show all over the schedule. One minute it's on at 4:45, the next it's at 4:15. Sometimes it will get bumped for a kids show like Howdy Doody. And if your audience never knows when you're on, well, it's pretty hard to keep them. And then, of course, you had the sponsors. Oh, the sponsors. In true 1950s fashion, the product placement was, let's just say it was not subtle. Imagine Martha Scott having to go from this super emotional, dramatic scene and then, without missing a beat, turn to the camera with a big smile and talk about how refreshing 7-Up is. It was a whole different world. This also led to one of the weirdest things I've ever heard of in TV history. See, the same people who produced Modern Romances also made a detective show called Rocky King Detective.
So when the detective show got canceled, what did they do? They just brought it back for 1 week inside of Modern Romances. The original cast came back and did a 5-part mystery. It's like this bizarre lost crossover event. Hard to picture today.
So you've got this amazing show, right? It's high quality, it's innovative, it's full of stars, which leads to the big question. Why on earth have most of us never heard of it? Why did it just disappear?
Because make no mistake, this show wasn't some little cult favorite that nobody watched. In the spring of 1955, Modern Romances was the #1 daytime show on NBC. It was a massive hit. So the critics loved it, the audience loved it. It was a huge success. Everything Martha Scott set out to do, bring dignity, great acting, and smart stories to daytime TV, it worked. Her vision was a total success.
So what happened? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. First, those crazy time slot changes just killed its audience. Then you have the fact that it was live television. The episodes weren't saved on tapes, so once they aired, poof, they were gone forever. No reruns, no syndication. And ironically, the very thing that made it so special, the new story every week, was also a problem. It didn't have those characters you could get attached to for years and years, the kind of thing that kept other soaps on the air for decades.
And that really leaves you with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The story of Modern Romances proves that being popular and being good is no guarantee that you'll be remembered. It just makes you wonder, how many other amazing, pioneering TV shows are out there that have been totally forgotten, just lost to time? Hey, if you thought this little trip into TV's forgotten past was interesting, do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And I'd love to know what you think in the comments. What other forgotten shows should we look at? Thanks so much for watching.